Many students hate grammar, and I think many parents hate teaching it too. There are ways to make learning grammar more fun, and the Fix-It Grammar series is one of the best. Fix-It Grammar uses sentences from real stories rather than repetitious grammar exercises. Fix-It uses short excerpts from an ongoing story each day. Students will be working on grammar, usage, punctuation, spelling, and vocabulary. They will also work on composition skills, using some of the techniques taught in Andrew Pudewa's very popular course, Teaching Writing, Structure, and Style. Dress-ups, sentence openers, and other ideas from Teaching Writing, Structure, and Style are explained well enough in the Fix-It books that you don't have to be using the Structure and Style course with Fix-It. But it makes sense to use both together if possible. There are 6 books in the Fix-It series, and each book is based upon a fictional story in an abridged or rewritten version, and the title of each book becomes the subtitle of the Fix-It course. So the 6 courses in order are The Nose Tree, that's Book 1, Robin Hood, Book 2, Frog Prince or Just Desserts, Book 3, Little Mermaid, Book 4, Chanticleer, Book 5, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, Book 6. The courses can be used with students from about 3rd grade up through high school. Books don't specify grade levels, so you can be using the first book with a 3rd grader and an 8th grader if you want. All students should begin with the Nose Tree book, Book 1, since the strategy used in the series as well as the knowledge and skills build upon one another. In each course, the fictional story is told with only 1 or a few sentences per day, as you can see from this sample from the first book. Each day, students will then work with that portion of the story, learning about and identifying grammatical elements, making grammar and punctuation corrections, defining bolded vocabulary words, making stylistic changes, and then rewriting the complete passage. Here is the sentence for one day's lesson from the 3rd book. You can see that they will be identifying prepositional phrases, as well as finding the strongest verb, adjective, and adverb. You might have noticed that sentences in the first book were only 1 or 2 sentences long, while this example runs into a 3rd line. Sentences get longer and more complex as students work through the levels. The stories themselves appeal to students since they are about fantasy and adventure. All of these stories exhibit a delightful use of language and encourage students to do so as well. This sample is a student rewrite of one passage from Robin Hood that gives you a sense of the language. Remember that this is from the 2nd book, and it might be used with students as young as 4th grade. This passage was presented 1 sentence per day for 4 days, and this is the student's rewrite at the end of the week. So it reads, as he approached, he noticed a tall stranger who was resolutely striding toward the other side of the bridge. Robin quickened his pace when the stranger did too, since each imagined to cross first. If you know your best interest, stand back, sir, demanded Robin brusquely, because the better man should cross first. No, responded the confident interloper. You stand back yourself, since I am the better man. Even young students grasped the humor of the situation and the silliness of both men's prideful responses. They learned to enjoy the sophisticated language. There are both a teacher's manual and a student workbook for each course. You can see in the teacher manual exactly how students should mark up each passage. The teacher's notes explain the corrections. Sometimes this is review, but sometimes you will be using these lessons to actually teach grammar and other skills. New concepts are explained in the student workbooks. In this example, students are taught about using commas with nouns of direct address. Even though there are instructions in student books, parents or teachers should still go over the concepts with them, modeling what is being taught for students so they clearly understand what they are to do. For example, the Nose Tree teaches about adjectives in week 14. The student book explains what an adjective is, gives students a test to use to determine whether or not a word is an adjective, and instructs them to add the grammar card on adjectives to their collection of grammar cards. Students are then to begin identifying and marking adjectives in each day's passage. The parent or teacher should work closely with students, first helping them to use the test to identify adjectives in the first passage, and continue working this way until the student is able to easily identify most adjectives. The exercises are teaching tools, so the course encourages parents and teachers to treat lessons like puzzles or detective games rather than exercises to be graded. Students will be exposed to concepts over and over again, so they will learn eventually even if they struggle with a concept at first. Student workbook pages in the first 3 courses have reminders at the top of the page above the sentences from the story that they will be marking up. Reminders are prompts for the tasks students need to complete for each sentence. In this example, there are reminders for vocabulary words, indentation, and capitalization, as well as to watch for homophones, commas, end marks, and quotation marks. They will mark up the sentence identifying different elements, in this case articles, nouns, a who-which clause, and that's explained in the course, pronouns, verbs, coordinating conjunctions, adjectives, and adverbs. They are also learning to identify prepositional phrases. The teacher's manuals have completely marked up sentences for easy reference. The teacher also has detailed notes and explanations for anything that might not be obvious. As I mentioned earlier, books get progressively more difficult, building upon one another in sequence. For example, The Nose Tree, Book 1, teaches basic parts of speech and prepositional phrases. Subsequent books emphasize identifying subjects and verbs so that students can identify both main clauses and dependent clauses. Editing work begins at a simple level in the first book and becomes more challenging so that students are really doing advanced editing in Book 6. On the other hand, students are expected to have mastered parts of speech and identification of prepositional phrases after a few books, so the markup activities for those taper off, while the emphasis shifts toward the more comprehensive editing. Students will rewrite the passage each day after they've made corrections, so it is important that they get it all correct before the rewrite. Fix-It requires both independent and interactive work. Once students understand the process, they can sometimes correct and mark up the passage for the day on their own, and they should be able to do vocabulary work and the rewrites on their own. It shouldn't take any longer than 15 minutes for a lesson each day. Fix-It courses should be more effective than traditional grammar courses because they teach grammar through immediate application. They teach students primarily what they need to know at the moment. Even students who have begun to learn grammar using other resources might find Fix-It grammar a welcome change. You can read my complete review on my website. Thanks for watching.